But this is a brand new chapter. It's the very first time that I get to introduce a brand new chief executive for Atlanta United. So this is a big, big day. And in just a couple of minutes, I'll be thrilled to introduce Garth Lagerwey. But let me tell you a little bit about the process that we've been going through over the last several months. So we cast a very wide net. Obviously, this search is very important, right? How do you take a super club like Atlanta United and make sure that you can position it for future success? And that's what we feel like we've done through the process and through naming Garth. I feel like we've done all the right things that will position this club for a future of success. So we hired a company called Sportsology. They were part of our search process. I engaged a team of senior executives that included our head of HR, Tim Goodley. Arthur Blank was thoroughly involved, and we went from a wide net that was global in nature, so South America, Europe, the United States, MLS. We looked at a very broad swath of top talent. Real testimony to the brand of Atlanta United that this was such a sought-after position, and we got validated from all corners of the soccer globe that this was a highly desirable and sought-after position. So very, very gratified. So we went through a process that started with a long list of candidates that went down to a shorter list of about 7 that we interviewed first virtually, and then finally we brought a small group in for a pretty extensive array of interviews. We'll say that through that very, very thoughtful process, Garth was unanimous in all of the participants in that process felt that Garth brought so much to the table. A lot of ways that the soccer planets align, that we're here this quickly, just a couple days after Thanksgiving, is remarkable. I wasn't going to let the timeline rush us through. At the end, we needed to do a thoughtful and methodical process. We did exactly that. The fact that Garth is here and on the payroll, and he was in his first set of meetings starting yesterday, and he's already digging in to all the issues that come with being the chief executive for Atlanta United. I'm thrilled because that allows him to take his time to understand our organization, to assimilate the data, and to begin to have an impact, not in the future, but immediately. And that is the expectation. So really grateful that things fell our way, which is remarkable against the backdrop of a World Cup where essentially the soccer world has all stopped. Everybody's in Qatar, except Garth. We got him here, and we're thrilled about that. So Garth brings an unbelievable track record across multiple years and multiple clubs. He is a winner. He's won MLS championships for 2 different teams. The first ever CONCACAF Championships League victory for Major League Soccer. So what he brings in terms of soccer credentials are really unrivaled, and we're thrilled about all that expertise. But I'll tell you what we're more thrilled about is who he is. We've got a very high bar inside of A&B Sports and Entertainment. You got to be good at your job, but you got to be a good human being. You got to be a collaborator. You got to be able to work in a blank family of businesses that's all about trying to make the world a better place. That's part of our side jobs. Yeah, we're going to be deeply involved in football and soccer and stadium operations, but at the end of the day, we want to make a positive impact on our communities. So I'll just, before I hand it to Garth, I'll clearly communicate the expectations that we have for Garth as he takes on his new role, and they're really across 3 dimensions. We expect to win championships. We expect to compete within MLS every single year. That is our expectation. Arthur stated that from day one, and he's always put his money where his mouth is. He's provided the resources, and our expectation is we're going to continue to provide those resources, and Garth will have the time to assess and then begin to chart that next chapter in Atlanta United's history, but one that includes winning and competing and playoffs and championships. That's our goal every time we take the pitch. That's number 1. We also want to run a fantastic business. So championship soccer on the pitch, we want to run a championship business, which means that we've got a new Apple deal that is going to challenge everybody in Major League Soccer, as we have the number 1 global brand is now our distribution partner as we grow the game, the beautiful game in the United States as we approach 2026 and the World Cup. We've got an unbelievable opportunity to do that. So we want to run a great business, and then finally we want to win in the community. So that's our standard. We want to be an impact player inside of Atlanta, inside of the community, and use the platform that is Atlanta United for positive, for good. So those are our expectations. Garth knows them already implicitly, and he's stepped up and signed on for every dimension of the challenge that this new role represents. So without any further ado, let me introduce our new CEO, Garth Lagerwey.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? It is phenomenally exciting to be here. It is an opportunity of a lifetime for me. I worked 15 years to get an opportunity to be a CEO and to run both the business and soccer sides of an organization. And this is just an incredible opportunity to work for Steve, to work for Arthur, and to work with our leadership team of Demetrius and Georgia and Carlos and Gonzalo, and to establish a new foundation for Atlanta United and to build on all the success of what's come before in 2018, 2019, et cetera. Some big shoes to fill coming in for Darren Eales. But with this fan base and with all of you in the media corps, who I look forward to working with, I just couldn't be more excited. It's just a great opportunity, and it's one that I think has limitless potential. So just can't wait to get started.
Thanks, Garth. We'll go ahead and get questions. Steve, if I can invite you back up on stage. Again, when asking a question, just clearly state who it's for, Garth or Steve. Doug, you want to lead us off?
May I ask two questions?
Go ahead.
Thank you. First for Steve. When you did a Zoom or video chat with us a few months ago, I floated Garth's name as a candidate, and you were either being coy or didn't know who he was. I don't know which one at this point. Did he approach y'all? Did y'all approach him? And what was specific about him that really caught your eye?
Garth's name, so I wasn't being coy, but obviously, process needs to be thorough, and when you play it out in the court of public opinion, it doesn't go quite the way you want it to. Garth's name came up immediately from probably half a dozen directions, from Darren Eales, from the league, from multiple other sources. So I serve on the Board of Governors. It's a tight-knit community. It's a very supportive community, and Garth's name was there from the outset, but we wanted to let the process run its course. So he was obviously caught in the net of our search process, and then he went through with everybody else through that process. So even though got his name almost immediately, he went through that process and was the unanimous decision for us.
And the club hasn't made the playoffs 2 of the past 3 years. When you're looked at it from an outsider perspective, and now you've had a few days as insider perspective, what is the immediate thing that you think needs to be improved so that this club will consistently make the playoffs and fulfill one of the 3 things they expect?
Look, I think there's a ton of positives here. When you look at the talent within the group, you look at the talent on and off the field in terms of the personnel. There's so many things to be excited for. I mean, the fan base, the enthusiasm for the team, the support that they've had historically. I just think there's just not a lot of downside here. So my job is to come in and to be thorough and to go slow to move fast, which is to say come in, do an analysis, really try to do a deep dive, try to understand both the business and the soccer aspects of the organization. And then once we're prepared and once we have all the information we need, then to go forward and make decisions. For those of you guys who have studied my career a little bit, you probably know already, I tend to be methodical. I will undoubtedly frustrate you sometimes by saying, well, why isn't he doing anything? Does he actually know what he's doing? But and who knows the answer to that? I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. But I'll take my time. We're going to do a really thorough process, and I think that's the foundation that we're trying to get here. We're trying to get to sustainable success. The Atlanta United rocketed out of the gate. They had a kind of inevitable decline in some respects from just because of how phenomenal that start was. I don't know anybody that could have kept up at that rate. And we're going to try to make this sustainable. And that requires a foundation, and that requires a methodical kind of block-by-block approach to building this thing up. And that's how I'm going to approach it.
When I'm done. Okay. Hey, the question's for Garth. I'm Joe Patrick from 92.9 The Game and Dirty South Soccer. It's nice to meet you. I'm wondering if you could just kind of lay out what you see as your duties in this role as president, and specifically on the soccer side, how the decision-making will work between you and Carlos in the front office.
Sure. Well, first of all, nice to meet you. Thanks, and thank you, Mr. Roberson, for the question. And I look forward to spending all time with you guys individually as well. The part of the whole soccer ecosystem is the relationship with the fans and the media, and you guys are phenomenal. I've been admirers from afar. So, looking forward to that. In terms of our soccer process, again, I'm the CEO and the president, or the president and CEO. I can't get the title; it's a mouthful. But look, that means the buck stops with me. So if something gets screwed up, you can come to me and say, why'd you screw it up? And I have no doubt I'll do that a couple of times. And what I feel like I owe you guys is transparency, and I'll do my best. I'm a lawyer, so that means I talk too much, but I'll try to tell you the why. Try to say, hey, here's what we're going to do, and here's why we're going to do it. And as I said, we won't get everything right, but hopefully over time we get more right than wrong. And in terms of the details of the day-to-day of who's going to do what and this, I think that's to be worked out. But to be clear, I'm not coming here to be the GM. I'm coming here to be the CEO. I'm coming here to run the organization and to understand and lead the process of the entire group. To work with Georgia and Demetrius, Carlos, Gonzalo, that was, very intentional. That is a leadership team across the entire organization. And for me, I believe that's where I can have the greatest influence. And look, within that role, then I'm supposed to make everybody better. That's my MO as a manager, as a leader. I'm going to come in and I'm going to try to positively influence and help everybody who works with me and for me. And I'm going to try to use the resources of AMBSC and apply those and try to learn from them myself and try to make the whole operation better. And again, that's for me the next step in my career. And again, I think that's what will create this sustainable foundation of success going forward.
Hi, Garth. My name is Sam Jones. I'm with The Striker. It's nice to meet you. I know it's early in the process, but have you identified any immediate areas of need within the Atlanta United roster and within how that roster is constructed, whether that's scouting, analytics, or anything else that needs to be addressed?
So, well, nice to meet you, Sam. Thanks for the question. Again, I'm on my second day. So what I promised all the guys, again, Georgia and Demetrius, who are here, along with Carlos Gonzalo, is I don't know what I'm talking about. And what I mean by that is I can watch from afar and I can study video and stuff, but I haven't met the players. I haven't talked to any agents. I've literally not even sat down with Carlos yet. So I got to go through the process, and I got to understand what's here. And look, again, one of my abilities, one of my skills, I think, is taking the talents within an organization and then figuring out what the right structure is, what the right process is, and aligning everybody and trying to get everybody, kind of firing at their maximum potential. So I think it would be foolish of me to offer an opinion as to, oh, I know, I've been across the country for the last 8 years, but I know your team better than you do, who's been here every day for 7 years. So, no, look, that's not to say that I'm not going to come in and maybe disagree with something that's been done or said, or hey, but like, in the case of Gonzalo, obviously we know each other really well, and we worked together for a couple of years in Seattle already. So, again, I feel really comfortable. Demetrius and I worked together extensively on the CSO committee when he was with the league. So I think that's some really, really good starting points in terms of building those relationships. But certainly I'm going to come in and I'm going to get their opinions and again, try to identify what their strengths are and build around those.
I'm going to work with rough numbers here, but I think Seattle's highest transfer was around 10 million, 12 million, something for Dempsey, I believe it was.
Those before my time, but that's probably right. I can't confirm just because I wasn't there. But
Right. But Atlanta United has spent over that many, many times. I'm curious if you've been tasked or asked with maybe being a little more financially conservative than previous regime in terms of acquiring players to try to impact the team.
Believe it or not, when they were recruiting me, they didn't say, "Hey, we're going to limit all the things that you can do." No, it was to the contrary. This is the it's a great organization. It's a league leading organization within MLS. It's a league leading organization within the NFL. So look, I'm just really excited about all the expertise that's here, all the resources that are here, and in no way, shape, or form has anybody told me anything to the extent of come in and limit anything. And again, like I do think we're going to go through our DP policy and look at where we've spent and has it been effective and can we be more efficient. And again, you guys will hear me use words like efficient. Don't let it scare you too much. Just means that we're trying to maximize our resources, because if you maximize your resources in a salary cap system, that's going to get you more good players. If you have more good players, you're probably going to win more games. So again, as we get to know each other, I am not a rocket scientist. Again, I'll make lots of mistakes, but again, I'll try to tell you the basic stuff, and the basic stuff in sports often isn't that hard. It's just sticking to the plan and understanding, again, that if you execute on stuff like get more good players, usually it works out pretty well.
We'll go Joe, Sam, and then Blaine in the back.
Questions again for you, Garth. You left Seattle, where you had unprecedented success there with that team. So this is kind of a two-parter, but why leave Seattle to come to Atlanta? And I guess what is it that you feel like you can bring to this organization that is going to help?
Sure. Look, as I said, I've been a GM for 15 years, and I worked for 15 years. And I think you guys know I started before that at Latham & Watkins, Fortune 500 law firm, big corporate law, all that background. And it was phenomenal training. And, you learn about 100-hour weeks and sleeping in your office. And that's actually how I met my wife. Story for another day. But so it's a different job. It's a totally different scope. In Seattle, you have an incredibly accomplished owner in Adrian Hanauer, who was himself the general manager before I came in and took over. And they're highly capable, and they it's not, the CEO role is not one that they have, and it's not one they're going to have. And to Adrian's credit, he was always open with me about that. Like, if you want to move forward in your career, that opportunity very likely won't be here. And again, I think there's an argument that that's just not the way Seattle's set up, and as long as Adrian's there, I don't know that they need it. And they've had phenomenal leadership on the business side, all along, just as Atlanta United has. So this is a step forward for me, to be able to, again, to come in and run the business and the soccer side. And again, I think having been a business lawyer in Latham many moons ago, I think I have some foundation. If nothing else, I know how to learn some stuff, and hopefully I can figure it out. And again, I'll lean heavily on our leadership team, led by George on the business side, and again with Demetrius, Carlos, Gonzalo, and get everybody together and hopefully make everybody a little bit better and collaborate and be collective and go forward from there.
You talked about finding more good players. I wanted to ask you about your particular process in doing that and what you value within that process, whether that's certain analytical aspects, certain scouting aspects, or anything else that might come along.
I'm a big believer in objective evidence. I'm a big believer in data. I'm a big believer in it's wonderful for me or anybody else to have an opinion, but again, the lawyer in me is always going to say, well, why? When you're in law school, you get evaluated, you get asked a question, and you have to argue for and against. You have to argue both sides of every question. That's what a law school answer is. And I think that that's the culture that I want to promulgate here. Again, come in, have an opinion, but understand what's on both sides of that argument, and then try to make the best decision for the group collectively. So we're going to be data-driven. One of the things we're going to look at is our analytics support. I think from what I understand, again, I haven't even met with Arjun yet, but everybody says he's phenomenal. But it's also, he's one person. And, I think if you look at the foundations of some other clubs around the world, maybe that's an area where it can be a point of emphasis for us. Maybe that's an area where there's an opportunity to build out. Again, probably premature to say that without having been there for more than one day, but that's definitely something we're going to roll up our sleeves and get in. And certainly before we start spending vast amounts of money, I'd certainly want that to be supported by evidence and data, and not just my opinion coming from the West Coast.
Garth, it's Blaine from Fox 5 in Atlanta. Welcome. Question for you. How attractive was it having Gonzalo here, somebody you've worked with, and to be able to work with again in that relationship?
I think anytime you're starting a new job,